In March of 1994, I was sharing a flat in Folkestone, England with a guy who at the time I thought was my friend. He had wormed his way into staying in the spare room of my flat, but I little realized that he wanted the whole flat for himself. He would 2 months later lock me out of my own home on my 25th birthday after a possible murder attempt on me. It was the most beautiful flat I have ever had, a huge attic flat to a 100-year-old mansion. Entry to the flat was a curving stairwell that came up into the middle of the flat beneath a huge, stained glass skylight. It was most beautiful and very unusual. Around the stairwell was a lovely wooden balcony rail with rooms leading off in all directions. Something was seen on this balcony by a whole group of my friends a couple of months before this experience. They said it appeared to be the ghost of a man, almost like a shadow, which walked along the balcony and fell down in front of the living room. The strange thing is that apparently this ghost looked exactly like me. One night in March, my neighbor had a party that I attended. I left the party and came back to the flat. For some reason, I remember leaving the party and walking back, but my mind has blocked out entering my flat. My next memory is of me standing at the top of the stairwell with my wrist cut open with a wound 3 inches long right across my wrist, and cut so deep the injury had gone through tendons to the bone. I staggered round the balcony and noticed my flatmate and his girlfriend asleep on the living room floor. I called to them for help and fell over, exactly where my friends had seen the ghost fall. My energy levels were fading fast. Fortunately, although my flatmate and his girlfriend would not move, I had 2 other friends staying over. My other friend awoke at the sound of my cry for help, found me on the floor bleeding heavily, and shouted for me to wake up. My friend didn't know what to do, but he knew his girlfriend had first aid training. Until his girlfriend woke up, on instinct, my friend put both his thumbs inside my wrist to try and stem the bleeding a little. As soon as his girlfriend saw my injury, she ran to the kitchen for a tea towel, which she wrapped around my wrist, then elevated my arm, and told her boyfriend to call for an ambulance. When my friend came back, he tried to wake up our other friend, who just would not wake up. My friend even picked him up so that my flatmate was standing and dropped him. Still, he did not wake up. This is one of many reasons why I now think that this was not a suicide attempt, but a murder attempt by my flatmate. My friend and his girlfriend stayed with me while we waited for the ambulance. They also came to the hospital with me. In the emergency room, I saw a South African doctor. In the middle of his examination, he was called away to an emergency chest operation to save someone's life. Whilst he was away, I remember talking to my friend's girlfriend when I lost consciousness. It was such a relaxed feeling, just slipping away like that. My whole being seemed to change. The first thing I noticed was an amazing sense of relaxation and calm. I noticed that every single negative human emotion had simply gone, which left me feeling absolutely wonderful. Imagine the biggest high of your life, multiply it by 1,000, and you still won't even be close to this wonderful, safe feeling. Then I found myself in a blue tunnel. The color was an electric blue, similar to the kind you get on certain LED Christmas lights now. It was a very vivid and wonderful color. I floated gently, quite slowly along this tunnel, and fully relaxed. I can even give you the dimensions of the tunnel. It was 2,000 feet in diameter. Eventually, I could see in the distance a point that was a hive of tremendous activity. At this point, the blue tunnel turned into the white tunnel, a very clear line of transition. It was impossible to see into the white tunnel, as there was so much light pouring out from it. There was also a tremendous feeling of love emanating from this source, and a kind of instant knowledge. You just knew it. The blue tunnel could accommodate 2-way traffic, whereas the white tunnel was 1-way for souls leaving the earth plane. Once you crossed over into the white tunnel, there was no going back. The light from this tunnel was so bright that under normal circumstances it would have been blinding. But here it was warm, safe, and full of love. As I got closer to the transition point between the blue and white tunnels, the activity became clearer. I could clearly see many, many souls on both sides of the transition point. There were quite a few souls, like myself, coming from the earth plane. All of these souls were being met by groups of souls who had come from the White Tunnel. It was like each soul had its own entourage of souls from the other side to meet them. Some were being welcomed with open arms and carefully guided through the transition point and into the wonderful light of the White Tunnel. Some were being greeted with discussions, and some were being turned back toward the earth plane. When I finally reached the transition, the first thing I did was carefully look around. This is how I gained my knowledge about the diameter of the tunnel. It was quite an amazing sight to behold, this transition point, with all the many souls coming and going. It was a very busy place and most unexpected. When I was met by my own entourage of souls, I could clearly see that they were human, but in this existence were beings of light. They seemed to be the same color as the electric blue in the first tunnel. I was greeted with a great love and urgency. I was held, and knowledge was imbued into me. I was told, this is not my time, but this was meant to happen. It was the only way my life could change onto the right path. I was given so much knowledge that it would overflow in your head normally, but I was told that each piece of knowledge would become available to me when needed. The knowledge that was made aware to me at that moment, which I felt to the core of my being. Time is just an illusion created by humanity. It simply does not exist. From the other side, you can travel to any period in time as easily as crossing the street. It is hard to describe the feeling of home that these souls brought with them. I knew them all, but am unsure how as my time there was limited. Eventually, I had to say goodbye and was returned to my body so fast that I awoke with a start, which shocked the faces of the South African doctor and my friends. Apparently, when I lost consciousness, I had lost so much blood that my heart stopped beating. My friends found the doctor, who took one look at me and punched me really hard in the ribcage above my heart. This brought me straight back. This doctor later told me he had worked in war zones in Africa, so was used to working on people with very little equipment. This was fortunate for me, still having been in the emergency room waiting area. For some reason, the first thing I checked when I came back was that my ring finger was okay. I watched with a deep fascination as the doctor put my wrist back together. He had to reach right up inside my arm to retrieve a snapped tendon, which he sewed back together. All I could think of at this point was the film Terminator 2, when he takes the skin off his hand to show he is a robot. Eventually, I regained most of the use of my hand. I can still only feel properly in half of it, as the other half was completely numb for years. Some nerves have now grown back jumbled. For example, if I touch the base of my thumb, I feel it in my index finger. But I learned to live with it and still manage to type and play keyboard, despite only having full use of 7 out of my 10 fingers and thumbs. I was told that I was clinically dead for at least 30 seconds, which doesn't sound very long. Yet, it was plenty of time to experience my NDE, which seemed like hours to me at the time. It took me a long time to recover mentally, as I went through a lot. As a result, I lost my job, and then 2 months later I came home on my 25th birthday to find my flatmate had put a padlock on the outside of my door. He told me, "You don't live here anymore." It was clear that he was just after my flat and went to any length to get it. So I lost my job, found myself homeless, and very distraught. Years later, I can now appreciate the whole experience. The path I was on, I would probably have worked myself to death. Currently, I am 39 years old and just about to start my own astrology business, but it has taken years and years of soul searching to get to where I am now. I am even more of a spiritual person than I was, with an unbreakably strong belief in reincarnation and karma. The main difference now is that I have proof of my own beliefs and of the life on the other side as being our true home. I have no fear of death. Death is not the end, only a transition to our true home.